My research topic is on motorsport and its general lack of acceptance among traditional sports fans, which is a bit of a sticking point for me, but it seems like a pretty good topic for me to go over in depth because I have a lot of background knowledge on it. My thesis happens to be that motorsport contains all of the elements that you would get in any traditional sport. In a lot of cases, it's cranked to 11 comparatively. These things don't necessarily translate very well. They don't relate if you're just used to stick and ball sports. Otherwise, it fits, traditional ideas, concepts of masculinity, toughness, competitiveness. It's a very extreme sport the more you look into it, but if you don't have any sort of background in it, or if you don't have somebody holding your hand, it can actually be overwhelming and just downright daunting to understand it. And I think that's the biggest thing for people. They just look at it and they see, oh, I drive a car every day. So, motorsport is easy. It's just a childish thing when that couldn't be the farthest thing from the truth. Like, it's apples to oranges. Commuting and racing are so wildly different. I think it mainly just comes down to perception and relatability. I'm just going to go over a few, just some notable points from my research. IndyCar driver Charlie Kimball was quoted saying that in an IndyCar, from the data that they pulled, and this isn't even like the highest end of motorsport. Formula One and WEC regularly see higher forces than these and have monumentally more power than a typical IndyCar that you would see on the States here. But here's just a few of the talking points about physicality. G forces, 3 to 5 Gs, both laterally and vertically while the car is in motion, changing direction, or slowing down or speeding up. 1,500 to 2,000 calories are burned in a 2 or 3 hour period for a single driver. Their heart rate during the race averages 160 to 185 BPM. And that's about 10 to 15 pounds in water weight lost over the course of a single race. And they have to be ready for this while thinking and like competing against people, playing mind games, doing all sorts of things, communicating with the teammates. They're multitasking every single second, and they have to do everything they're doing has to be both smooth and accurate while trying to like wrangle this car. It's something that like once you understand it, you're like, there's no way these guys aren't athletes, and there's no way this isn't a sport. This is true competition through and through. And it's just one of those things where I've done a 17-hour endurance race in a go-kart, and it wasn't a shifter car or anything that had a bunch of complicated controls. It was just a steering wheel, a gas pedal, and a brake pedal, and 2 other teammates. So we broke up the driving times, but I was only in the cart for like 1, 2, 3 hours at a time. And this is just a minuscule, like basic entry level to racing type of thing. And between freezing because of the cold, rain, wind, all sorts of stuff that you're just being bombarded with the whole time. Just getting out of the cart in between stints, like your knees locking up, your joints hurt, like you're stressed out, you're tearing muscles, like you're trying to digest food and drink enough water and stay hydrated and stay focused. And that was just to get on a podium on a regional event. It like, to the average, even remotely professional driver, that's like nothing to them. And it's just the talent pool for professional drivers is way smaller. So like the more you look into the numbers in these things, the more they back up the thesis that I have. And there's also growing popularity in motorsports generally across the board. And I think it's because of the fact that there's more information out there. People are taking their part to actually explain these things, because most people grow up and have a basic understanding of football in some way sense, but the average American household doesn't understand like racecraft and physics and stuff like that. Like that's behind like racing. Like, and it, like, the NFL is just as complicated as racing can be, but it's just, it's based on what you're exposed to. So that's a lot of the talking points that I'm working into my paper. To go over the challenges I have writing this, I mean, a lot of it's the same as most people in the class is finding time to write it and rewriting it and making sure that like the information that you may already be privy to if you have firsthand knowledge and getting a source that links up really well and you can manage it into the research paper is a little bit like hit or miss. Like that's something I'm still working on and time. But the main thing with it is just trying to take the wealth of knowledge I have and put it into words that aren't overwhelming the reader because it's very easy for me to just be like just vomit information very very quickly and I have to keep pulling that back going, are these details pertinent to the topic? Somebody who has never seen the NFL, never seen racing, can they read this and understand it? And a lot of times I'm like, okay, I think I'm drowning the person in information. So that's what I've got to work on. I'm probably going to write like several versions of it before we even get to the final day of class. So it's a little bit nerve wracking, but I like the progress that I'm making with it. So I look forward to seeing what you guys have out there, and hopefully mine's not too tough of a read for you guys.